The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any stadium on Earth. Floating platforms held representatives from 7 ancient species, each one glowing with soft light that made them look almost divine. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the smallest platform at the edge of the chamber, feeling like an insect that had wandered into a palace. He wore his military uniform, the one with all his medals. It had impressed people back on Earth. Here, nobody even looked at him. Hyun-woo pressed the button on his datapad. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked where ships had vanished over the past 6 months. There were 43 of them, all near a region called the Void Reach. Honored Council, Hyun-woo began, his voice echoing through the vast space. Earth requests immediate attention to this matter. We believe something dangerous is emerging from silence. The word came from Counselor Vex Tar, a being that looked like a mixture of crystal and light. He sat on the highest platform, looking down at everyone else. The Council recognizes your request, human. We have reviewed your data. It is nothing. Hyun-woo felt his jaw tighten. With respect, Counselor, 43 ships don't just disappear. The pattern suggests nothing more than navigational errors and mechanical failures, Vex Tar interrupted. His voice dripped with contempt. Your species has been traveling in space for barely a century. You see threats where there are none because you do not understand the galaxy. Other counselors made sounds that Hyun-woo had learned to recognize as laughter. It sounded like wind chimes and grinding gears mixed together. Ambassador Daeho, sitting in the observation section behind Hyun-woo, closed his eyes. He had warned Hyun-woo this would happen. The Council never listened to humans. The Velkari have explored this galaxy for 12,000 years, Vex Tar continued. The Archons for 15,000. We have seen true threats. This is not one of them. Your paranoia is a symptom of your warlike nature. You see enemies everywhere, because your species has spent its entire existence fighting itself. Hyun-woo's hands curled into fists at his sides. Everything Vex Tar said was designed to humiliate him, to put humanity in its place. He wanted to argue, to show them the analysis that Dr. Minji had prepared, the patterns in the disappearances that couldn't be coincidence. But he knew it wouldn't matter. Furthermore, Vex Tar added, we deny Earth's request for joint defensive preparations. The Council will not waste resources on phantom threats imagined by a species that only yesterday learned to leave its own solar system. The vote appeared on the chamber's main screen. All 7 Council species voted against Earth's proposal. The decision was unanimous. Hyun-woo bowed stiffly, as protocol demanded. Thank you for your time, counselors. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. He left the chamber, his boots clicking on the smooth metal floor. Ambassador Daeho caught up with him in the corridor outside. They won't listen, Daeho said quietly. They never do. Then we prepare alone, Hyun-woo replied. Daeho glanced around, making sure no one was watching. General Borum sent a message. The projects are ahead of schedule. We'll have what we need when the time comes. Hyun-woo nodded. For the past 10 years, while the Council had been treating humanity like children, Earth had been building something in secret. Ships, weapons, technologies that the Council thought were beyond human capability. Let them underestimate us, Hyun-woo thought. It will be their mistake. 3 levels below the Council chamber, Dr. Minji sat in her laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing biological data from all 7 Council species. She had been collecting this information for years, officially to help human doctors treat alien patients. But Minji was a careful scientist. She noticed patterns, weaknesses, vulnerabilities. Her assistant, a young woman named Jisoo, entered the lab carrying a data chip. The analysis you requested, Jisoo said, handing it over. I ran the numbers 3 times. The pattern is definitely there. Minji inserted the chip into her terminal. The data appeared on her screen, showing the locations of the disappeared ships overlaid with gravitational readings, radiation signatures, and spatial anomalies. When she applied the filters Jisoo had suggested, a pattern emerged that made her blood run cold. "It's not random," Minji whispered. "They're not disappearing. They're being taken." "By what?" Jisoo asked. "Something big. Something that knows exactly where to strike." Minji zoomed in on the void reach. "And whatever it is, it's getting closer to Council space." "Another Ninji. I have another, one for over. 2. She sent the data to Hyunwoo immediately. That night, in the station's observation deck, Hyunwoo stood looking out at the stars. Earth was too far away to see from here, but he knew which direction to look. Somewhere out there, his home world was spinning through space, protected by nothing but hope and a few defensive satellites. The Council had sold them at inflated prices. "They think we're stupid," a voice said behind him. Hyunwoo turned to see Lieutenant Jisoo. She had transferred from Dr. Minji's lab to military service 2 years ago, saying she wanted to do more than just study aliens. She wanted to protect humans from them. "They think we're primitive," Hyunwoo corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Jisoo stepped up beside him. "We've offered to help. We've shown them evidence. They laugh at us like we're children playing pretend." "Let them laugh," Hyunwoo said. "Laughing is what you do when you feel safe, when you think nothing can hurt you. And when they stop laughing, that's when the real test begins." The next morning, alarms screamed through the Council station. Hyunwoo was in the human quarters when the emergency broadcast began. He ran to the communications center, arriving at the same time as Ambassador Daeho. The main screen showed a transmission from a colony world called Zerion 4. The image was chaotic, shaking wildly. A Velkari official was screaming into the camera, but the audio kept cutting in and out, attacking the surface. "Never seen anything. Shields are failing. Need immediate." The screen went black. Technician Sunho tried to re-establish the connection. "Nothing, sir. The entire planet's communication grid just went offline." "What about their defense satellites?" Daeho asked. "All silent." Hyunwoo felt ice spreading through his chest. Zerion 4 had a population of 800 million. It was one of the oldest Council colonies, protected by technology that was supposed to be impossible to breach. "Get me General Borum," Hyunwoo ordered. "Secure channel." Within minutes, Borum's face appeared on a private screen. The general was old, with gray hair and scars from the wars Earth had fought before joining the Council. He had never trusted the aliens. "You saw it?" Borum asked. "The whole station saw it," Hyunwoo said. "What do we know?" "Our deep space sensors picked up massive energy signatures in that sector. Whatever hit Zerion 4 was big, and there's more than one of them. The Council will have to respond now." Borum shook his head. "They'll investigate. They'll form committees. They'll debate. And while they're talking, more worlds will fall. You know how they operate, Hyunwoo. They've had peace for so long they've forgotten what war looks like." An hour later, the Council reconvened. Hyunwoo stood in the chamber again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Counselor Hyun, one of the eldest Archons, had requested that Earth be allowed to observe. Vextar looked even more arrogant than before. "The situation on Zerion 4 is regrettable, but likely the result of a technical malfunction. We are sending investigation teams." Vextar looked even more arrogant than before. Vextar looked even more arrogant. Vextar looked even more arrogant. Vextar looked even more arrogant. "Investigation teams?" Hyunwoo couldn't stop himself from speaking. "Counselor, 800 million people just went silent. This is exactly what I warned you about yesterday. You warned us about disappearing ships, human. This is a planetary communications failure. They are not the same thing. 1. They are connected." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "Something is coming from the void reach." something that destroys everything it touches. If you don't prepare now, enough! Vextar's voice boomed through the chamber. The Council will not be lectured by a species that still struggles with basic interstellar travel. Return to your observation post and be silent. Hyun-woo looked at the other counselors, hoping one of them would speak up. Only Hyun met his eyes, and the ancient Archon's expression was sad. As Hyun-woo left the chamber for the second time in 2 days, he activated his communicator. Daeho, contact Earth. Tell them to activate Protocol Nightfall. If the Council won't defend the galaxy, we need to be ready to defend ourselves. Behind him, the Council continued their debate about investigation procedures and proper protocols. They had no idea that the galaxy was about to burn, or that the only species prepared to fight the fire was the one they had just dismissed as too primitive to matter. The age of Council supremacy was ending. They just didn't know it yet. 3 weeks passed, and the galaxy started screaming. Zerion 4 was just the beginning. 2 days after it went silent, 3 more worlds stopped transmitting. Then 7 more. Then 12. The Council could no longer pretend it was a technical problem. Captain Hyun-woo stood in the intelligence center on the Council station, watching the holographic map of the galaxy. Red marks spread across it like a disease. Each red mark was a dead world. Billions of lives. Just gone. Technician Sunho worked at his console, his fingers flying across the controls. He was humanity's best intelligence officer, able to intercept and decode alien communications faster than anyone else on the station. Another distress call, Sunho said, his voice tight. From the Archon colony of Tessar 9. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Let me hear it, Hyun-woo said. The speakers crackled to life. The voice was an Archon, speaking in their musical language. But the translation came through clearly. They're everywhere. They came from the void. They look like insects, but they move like water. Our defenses can't stop them. They're eating everything. The buildings. The ships. The people. Oh gods, they're eating the people while they're still. The transmission ended in a wet, crunching sound. Hyun-woo closed his eyes. He had tried to warn them. He had shown them the evidence. And they had laughed at him. Sir, Sunho said quietly. I've been analyzing the attack patterns. Whatever this enemy is, they're not random. They're systematic. They hit the outer colonies first, then move inward. Like hunters, Hyun-woo said. Driving prey into a trap, his communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Daeho. Hyun-woo, get to the council chamber. They're finally calling an emergency session. The chamber was different now. Gone was the casual arrogance. The counselors looked scared. Even Vextar's crystalline form seemed dimmer, less bright than before. Elder Hyun spoke first. He was the oldest member of the council, over 20,000 years old. His species had seen the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. But even he looked shaken. We face an enemy we thought extinct, Hyun said. Ancient records call them the Krill. They are a hive mind. Billions of individual creatures controlled by a single consciousness. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors fought them and won, driving them into the void. We believed they died there. Obviously they didn't, Vextar said. They've been hiding, growing, waiting. Hyun-woo raised his hand. For once, no one told him to be quiet. How did your ancestors defeat them before? He asked. Hyun's ancient eyes focused on him. With weapons that no longer exist, and fleets that numbered in the millions. The war lasted 200 years and cost trillions of lives. By the time it ended, entire species had been wiped out. The Krill were pushed back, but we paid a terrible price. Then we need to mobilize everything we have, Hyun-woo said. We are mobilizing, Vextar snapped. The council fleets are being assembled as we speak. We have 6,000 capital ships and twice that many support vessels. It will be enough. Eri, Hyun-woo wanted to argue, but he held his tongue. 6,000 ships sounded impressive, but he had seen the reports. The Council hadn't fought a real war in 2,000 years. Their ships were beautiful, designed to look impressive and handle minor disputes. They weren't built for total war. The first battle came 3 days later. The Council fleet met the Krill at a choke point near the Centris system. It was supposed to be a defensive position, perfect for holding off an enemy. The Council admiral was confident. His ships were advanced, his crews well-trained in peacetime operations. Hyun-woo watched the battle feed from the station. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Krill didn't come in ships. They came in swarms. Millions of creatures, each one the size of a small car, moving together like a single organism. They flowed through space like a dark cloud, completely surrounding the Council fleet. The Council ships opened fire. Energy beams cut through the swarm, destroying thousands of Krill with each shot. But it didn't matter. For every one that died, 10 more took its place. Then the Krill reached the ships. They landed on the hulls and started eating. The metal, the armor, everything. They consumed it at an impossible speed, tearing through the advanced alloys like they were paper. Within minutes, massive capital ships that had taken decades to build were reduced to empty frames. The Council fleet broke and ran. Of the 6,000 ships that entered the battle, less than 2,000 escaped. That night, Hyun-woo received a coded message. The signature was scrambled, but he recognized Elder Hyun's communication pattern. The message was simple. "Help us, please." Hyun-woo sat in his quarters, staring at the message. Ambassador Daeho sat across from him, along with Lieutenant Jisoo and Dr. Minji, who had come up from her lab. "They're begging now," Jisoo said bitterly. "After laughing at us, after treating us like children, they're dying." Minji said softly. "Billions of them. Can we really just watch?" "The question isn't whether they deserve our help," Daeho said. "The question is whether we can afford to let them fall. If the Council collapses, the Krill will turn to Earth next, and we'll face them alone." Hyun-woo looked at each of them. "General Boram is waiting for my recommendation. What should I tell him?" "That we need more information," Minji said. She pulled up a holographic display, showing a piece of krill tissue that a Council ship had managed to capture. "I've been studying this. The krill are biological, but they're also partially technological. They assimilate whatever they consume, adding it to their bodies. They're adapting." "Can we fight them?" Hyun-woo asked. Minji nodded slowly. "I found something. The krill have a weakness. They're vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. It disrupts their hive-mind connection, makes them confused and slow. Do we have weapons that use those frequencies?" "We do, actually." Minji smiled grimly. "The quantum disruptors that Earth developed. The ones the Council said were too dangerous and primitive. Those naturally emit the exact frequencies that hurt the krill." Hyun-woo felt something like hope stirring in his chest. "So, we can fight them." "We can hurt them," Minji corrected. "Whether we can win is another question. The krill are massive in number. Even with the right weapons, we'd be outnumbered thousands to 1. Jisoo leaned forward. "But we'd have a chance, which is more than the Council has right now." Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Council ships limping back to the station, damaged and broken. Rescue pods floated in space, each one carrying survivors who had watched their ships get eaten alive. "Contact General Boram," he said finally. "Tell him to convene Earth's parliament. They need to vote on this." The vote on Earth took 48 hours. It was broadcast across every human colony and settlement. The debate was fierce. Some argued that the Council deserved to fall after how they had treated humanity. Others said that letting billions die out of spite made humans no better than the aliens who had dismissed them. In the end, it came down to a single speech. Commander Nari, the leader of Earth's rapid response fleet, addressed the Parliament. She was a veteran of the resource wars on Earth, and everyone respected her. "I've fought enemies my whole life," Nari said, "and I've learned that you don't judge a person by how they treat you when they're strong. You judge them by how they treat others when they're weak. The Council treated us badly. They mocked us and dismissed us. But right now, they're weak. They're dying. And the choice we make today will define who we are as a species. Are we the people who watch the galaxy burn because our pride was hurt? Or are we the people who do what's right, even when it's hard? Even when the people we're saving don't deserve it?" She paused, looking directly into the camera. "I vote we fight. Not for the Council, but for ourselves. Because when this is over, I want to look in the mirror and see someone I'm proud of." The vote passed. 287 to 213. Earth would intervene. Ambassador Deho delivered the message to the Council personally. Vextar was there, along with the other councillors. They looked desperate now, all their arrogance burned away by fear. "Earth will help defend the galaxy," Deho said formally. "But we have conditions." "Name them," Hion said immediately. "First, Earth receives full military autonomy. We command our own forces without Council oversight. Second, after this war ends, Earth receives a permanent seat on the Security Council, equal to all other members. Third, all trade restrictions on human technology are lifted. We share what we know, and you share what you know." Vextar looked like he wanted to argue, but Hion cut him off. "Agreed. All of it. We'll formalize it immediately." Deho nodded. "Then prepare yourselves, councillors. You're about to see what humanity can really do." That night, deep in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, hidden shipyards came to life. General Borum stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching as ships began to emerge from their concealed docks. 200 warships, each one built in secret over the past decade, each one designed for one purpose: war. They were smaller than Council ships, sleeker and faster. They carried weapons the Council had never seen. Technologies that Earth had developed in isolation while the aliens weren't paying attention. "All ships report ready, General," an officer said. Borum looked out at his fleet and smiled. "Then let's go remind the galaxy why you never underestimate a species that spent 10,000 years fighting itself. We learned things in our wars that they forgot in their peace." "Course, sir. Set course for the Xerion system. If the Krill want a fight, we'll give them one they won't forget, and when we're done saving the Council's collective asses, they're going to learn a very important lesson." "What lesson, sir?" "That the most dangerous species in the galaxy isn't the oldest or the most advanced. It's the one that never forgot how to bleed for what it believes in." The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed, streaking toward a war the Council couldn't win. But humanity had faced impossible odds before. It was, after all, what they did best. The human fleet arrived at the Xerion system to find hell waiting for them. The planet was covered in black. Krill swarmed over its surface like ants on sugar, consuming everything. The cities, the forests, the oceans, all being eaten and converted into more krill. Above the planet, thousands of krill clusters floated in space, forming a living barrier between the world and any potential rescuers. General Borum stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, his experienced eyes taking in the tactical situation. Around him, his officers worked quietly and efficiently. These were people who had trained for war their entire lives, not ceremonial peacekeepers. "How many Council survivors?" Borum asked. "Sensors detect approximately 400 million life signs in underground shelters," the sensor officer replied. "They won't last long. The Krill are digging. 400 million people." The number was impossible to imagine. But Borum had learned long ago not to think about numbers. You thought about the mission. You saved who you could save. "Launch the first wave," he ordered. 50 human fighters screamed out of the carrier ships, moving faster than anything the Council had ever built. They weren't elegant or beautiful like alien ships. They were functional, built for one purpose: killing. The krill swarms turned to meet them. Millions of creatures moved as one, forming walls of living flesh to block the fighters. But the human pilots didn't slow down. They punched through the krill formations, their quantum disruptors firing. The effect was immediate. Where the disruptor beams touched the krill, the creatures convulsed and died. The hive mind connection that held them together shattered, leaving them confused and vulnerable. More importantly, the disruption spread through the swarm like a disease, causing chaos in the enemy ranks. "It's working," Captain Hyun-woo said from his position on the command deck. He had transferred to the Indomitable to coordinate with Borum. Dr. Minji was right. "She always is," Borum said. "Second wave. Launch." More ships poured from the human fleet. Bombers this time, carrying specialized weapons designed by scientist Hana. The bombs didn't just explode. They released the same electromagnetic frequencies as the disruptors, but in massive bursts that cleared entire sections of space. The krill tried to adapt. Some clusters pulled back. Others pressed forward, trying to overwhelm the human ships through sheer numbers. But the humans had fought wars against each other for thousands of years. They knew how to adapt faster. Lieutenant Jisoo commanded a squadron of interceptors, weaving through the krill formations with practiced ease. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, covering each other, never giving the enemy a clean target. "This is easier than the simulators," one of her pilots said over the comm. "Stay focused." Jisoo snapped. "The krill are learning. They'll figure us out soon enough." "Jisoo, stay." Jisoo snapped. She was right. Even as she spoke, the krill swarms began changing their tactics. Instead of forming walls, they started spreading out, making themselves harder to hit with the area effect weapons. Some began spiraling in complex patterns, trying to confuse the targeting systems. "They're adapting faster than expected," Hyun-woo reported to Borum. "Dr. Minji predicted this, but not this quickly." "Then we adapt faster," Borum said calmly. He had fought in the resource wars on Earth, back when water was more valuable than gold. He had learned that in war, the side that adapted quickest won. "Switch to pattern Delta 7. Tell the bomber wings to focus on the planet's surface. We're getting those people out." 1. The human fleet shifted formation. While the fighters kept the krill in space occupied, the bombers dove toward the planet. They dropped their payloads on the surface, creating safe zones around the underground shelters where the Council survivors were hiding. Transport ships followed immediately, landing in these clear zones. Their doors opened, and human Marines poured out, weapons ready. Marine Unji was first out of her transport. She had fought in underground combat on Europa, hunting separatists through ice tunnels. This was worse. The ground was covered in krill biomass, pulsing and moving like it was alive. Because it was alive. "Perimeter secure," she reported, opening shelter doors now. The shelter entrance was buried under krill growth. Unji's team used plasma cutters to burn through, trying not to think about the fact that they were cutting through living creatures. When they finally broke through, they found hundreds of Velkari civilians staring at them in shock. "Come on," Unji said, gesturing to the transports. "We're getting you out of here." An elderly Velkari, his crystalline body cracked and dim, looked at her in confusion. "But you're humans." "Yeah, well, the Council fleet got its ass kicked," Unji said. "So you get us instead. Now move. We don't have much time." The evacuation began. Transport after transport filled with survivors and lifted off, heading for the safety of the human fleet. The krill tried to stop them, but the human fighters created a corridor of clear space, destroying anything that got close. Counselor Zethra, who had taken over leadership of the Archon species after Hyun went into deep meditation to conserve his ancient energy, watched the rescue from a Council observation ship. She had fought against giving humans a seat at the table. Now she watched as they saved her people with an efficiency the Council had lost centuries ago. "They're magnificent," she whispered. "Why didn't we see it before?" Her aide didn't answer. There was no good answer. Back on the Indomitable, Borum studied the tactical displays. They had saved 400 million people, but the victory was temporary. More krill swarms were approaching from the Void Reach. Dozens of them. Hundreds. "Admiral Taeyang is requesting communication," an officer said. Borum nodded. Taeyang commanded the Second Human Fleet, positioned near Earth's core systems. He was older than Borum, with white hair and a face that looked carved from stone. "Borum," Taeyang said when the connection opened. "Situation report. We won this battle, but we're losing the war," Borum said bluntly. "The krill numbers are too great. For every swarm we destroy, 3 more appear. At this rate, we'll run out of ammunition before they run out of bodies. Then we need to change the equation," Taeyang said. "I'm looking at your battle data. The krill are coming from the Void Reach. Correct? That's what all intelligence suggests. Then we need to hit them at the source. Cut off the head of the snake." Borum felt a chill run down his spine. "You're talking about entering the Void Reach. No Council ship has ever done that and returned." "Good thing we're not the Council," Taeyang said with a grim smile. "I'm assembling a strike force, 50 ships, our best crews. We'll jump into the Void Reach, find the krill nest, and destroy it. That's suicide. Probably. But it's also our only chance. This war ends at the source. Or it doesn't end at all." Hyun-woo, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped forward. "I'm going with you." "No," Borum said immediately. "You're needed here, coordinating the defense." "The defense is just buying time," Hyun-woo argued. "You said it yourself, we can't win by killing krill one at a time. If Admiral Taeyang is going into the Void Reach, he'll need someone who understands both military tactics and Council intelligence." "That's me." Borum wanted to argue, but he knew Hyun-woo was right. "Fine. But you take Jisoo with you. And Dr. Minji. We'll need her if we encounter anything unexpected." Over the next 3 days, the strike force assembled. 50 of humanity's best warships gathered at a rendezvous point beyond Council space. The crews knew what they were facing. Many of them recorded final messages to their families. Soldier Minho, a veteran of Earth's ground wars, checked his equipment for the 10th time. He had survived the Battle of New Beijing and the siege of Titan Station. But those had been human enemies. This was something else entirely. "Scared?" another soldier asked him. "Terrified," Minho admitted. "But that's good. Fear keeps you sharp." Dr. Minji worked in her lab aboard one of the science vessels, preparing every tool and weapon she could think of. She had analyzed every piece of krill biology she could find, looking for weaknesses. The electromagnetic disruption worked, but what if it wasn't enough? What if the krill had defenses they hadn't seen yet? Lieutenant Jisoo found her there, staring at holographic displays of krill cellular structures. "We're going to make it back," Jisoo said. Minji looked at her. "You don't know that." "No, but I believe it. And sometimes, belief is enough." Admiral Taeyang addressed the strike force from the bridge of his flagship, the Defiant. "Everyone here volunteered for this mission knowing the odds," he said. "We're about to enter a region of space that has destroyed everyone who came before us. The Council species, for all their age and technology, couldn't do it. But we're not them. We're humans. We're the species that climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We're the ones who turned a barren rock called Earth into a garden. We've faced extinction 100 times and survived every single one. This is just one more impossible challenge, and we're going to overcome it the same way we overcame all the others together." He paused, looking out at the fleet. "When we come back, and we will come back, the galaxy is going to know what we've always known. That humanity doesn't give up. We don't surrender. We don't break. We bend, we adapt, and we overcome." Now let's go show these ancient bugs why you never count out a species that learned to survive on a planet that tried to kill it for 4 billion years. The strike force jumped to faster than light speed, heading straight for the void reach. Back on the council station, Counselor Vextar watched them go. His arrogance had faded, replaced by something that might have been respect or might have been shame. "They're going to die," he said to Counselor Zethra. "Maybe," Zethra replied. "Or maybe we've been underestimating them from the beginning. Maybe the reason they're so good at war is because they understand something we forgot." "What's that?" "That survival isn't about being the strongest or the oldest. It's about being willing to do whatever it takes, pay whatever price is necessary, and never, ever give up. The humans have that. We lost it somewhere along the way." Vextar had no response. In the void reach, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel into darkness. This region of space had no stars, no light except what the ships brought with them. Sensors immediately detected thousands of Krill signatures, far more than they had encountered anywhere else. "This is it," Hyunwoo said quietly. "The nest. Then let's crack it open," Taeyang said. "All ships, attack formation. Science teams, start looking for the central structure. When we find the heart of this thing, we burn it out." The battle for the void reach had begun. The fate of the galaxy would be decided. The void reach was like swimming through ink. The human fleet moved through absolute darkness, their sensors the only thing keeping them from colliding with each other. But the sensors also showed something worse. They were surrounded. Krill signatures filled every screen, so many that the displays looked solid red. "Contact in 30 seconds, the tactical officer on the Defiant announced. Admiral Taeyang stood calmly at the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of people who knew their jobs perfectly. "All ships, weapons free. Don't wait for them to reach us. Fire on my mark." The Krill came at them like a tidal wave of living darkness. Millions of creatures, moving in perfect synchronization, flowing around asteroids and debris as if they were a single organism, which, in a way, they were. "Fire," Taeyang said. The human fleet lit up the void. Quantum disruptors, plasma cannons, and electromagnetic pulse weapons all fired at once. The effect was spectacular. Entire sections of the Krill swarm simply ceased to exist, destroyed by the coordinated barrage. But more kept coming. "They're not slowing down," Hyunwoo reported from his station. He was analyzing the enemy patterns, trying to find weaknesses. "They're throwing bodies at us, trying to overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers. Then we teach them why that's a bad idea," Taeyang said. "Pattern Omega-3, maximum dispersion." The human ships spread out, creating a sphere of firepower with no weak points. Every ship covered its neighbors, creating overlapping fields of death. The Krill died by the thousands, by the millions, but they kept coming. On board one of the smaller destroyers, Lieutenant Jisoo fought to keep her ship alive. Krill had landed on the hull, and were trying to eat through it. She diverted power to the hull's electromagnetic grid, electrifying the entire outer surface. The Krill touching it convulsed and died, but more took their place immediately. "Engineering, I need more power to the hull defenses," she shouted. "We're at maximum already," the chief engineer replied. "If we give you more, we'll have to shut down weapons or life support. Shut down the galley, the rec room, and half the crew quarters. I don't care if people are comfortable. I care if they're alive." The extra power flowed to the hull defenses. The electromagnetic field intensified, creating a barrier the Krill couldn't penetrate. But Jisoo knew it was temporary. They would adapt. They always adapted. Meanwhile, Dr. Minji worked frantically in her mobile laboratory on the science vessel Discovery. She had samples of Krill tissue spread across her workstations, along with readings from the battle happening outside. Something was bothering her about the Krill behavior. "They're too coordinated," she muttered to herself. "Even for a hive mind, This level of synchronization shouldn't be possible across such distances. She pulled up a comparison chart showing krill behavior from different locations. The attacks at Xerion, at Tessar 9, and here in the Void Reach all showed the same perfect coordination, despite being light-years apart. There's a central node, she realized. Something controlling them all. Something big. She opened a channel to Admiral Taeyang. Admiral, I think I found something. The krill aren't just a hive mind, they're a networked hive mind. There has to be a central structure somewhere in this region, broadcasting control signals. If we can find it and destroy it, the entire krill network might collapse. Can you locate it? Taeyang asked, ducking as an explosion rocked his ship. Working on it. I need the science vessels to start scanning for concentrated bioelectromagnetic signals. Something big enough to control billions of creatures would put out a massive signature. Scientist Hana, working on another vessel, joined the channel. I can help with that. Configuring sensors now. The human science ships began scanning, while the warships kept the krill at bay. It was a race against time. The fleet was holding, but ammunition was running low. The human ships had been designed for efficiency, but even they couldn't fight forever. Soldier Minho, part of a marine team standing by in case of boarding actions, watched the battle through a monitor. He had fought in close combat more times than he could count, but he had never seen anything like this. The krill were relentless, throwing themselves at the human ships without any concern for losses. They're not afraid to die, he said to his squad leader. That's because they're not really individuals, the squad leader replied. They're like cells in a body. One cell dies, the body doesn't care. Then we need to kill the body. 10 minutes later, Dr. Minji found it. There, she said, highlighting a point on the holographic map. Massive bioelectromagnetic signature. Approximately 200,000 kilometers from our current position. It's the size of a small moon. Taeyang studied the readout. The structure was enormous, easily the largest single organism ever recorded. And it was surrounded by a krill swarm, so dense that it looked like a solid shell. That's the nest, he said. That's what we came here to destroy. Getting to it will be suicide, his tactical officer said. The krill density around that structure is 10 times what we're facing here. Then we don't all go, Taeyang decided. I'll take a strike force. 10 ships, volunteers only. The rest of the fleet stays here and keeps the main swarm busy. When we destroy the nest, the krill should lose coordination. That's when the fleet pushes through and gets out of here. Hyunwoo stepped forward. I'm going with you. I'm going with you. I'm going with you. Of course you are, Taeyang said with a slight smile. I'd be insulted if you didn't. Commander Nari volunteered her ship immediately. So did several others. Within minutes, they had their strike force 10 of the fastest, most heavily armed ships in the fleet. Dr. Minji insisted on going too. You'll need someone who understands krill biology to know where to hit the structure for maximum effect. Fine, Taeyang said. But you stay on the Discovery and coordinate from there. I'm not risking our best scientist in direct combat. The strike force separated from the main fleet and accelerated toward the nest. The remaining ships intensified their fire, trying to draw as many krill as possible away from the strike team. As they got closer to the nest structure, the krill resistance became insane. The creatures swarmed in layers so thick that the strike force ships had to fire continuously just to move forward. It was like trying to swim through molasses while being attacked by piranhas. Commander Nari's ship took a direct hit. A cluster of krill broke through her shields and landed on the bridge. Her crew fought them off with hand weapons, but not before 3 officers were killed. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, her damage control officer reported. We're venting atmosphere. Seal those sections and keep moving, Nari ordered. Her ship was dying, but she would get to that nest even if she had to ram it. Engineer Junho, working in the Discovery's weapons lab, had been preparing a special weapon. It was experimental, based on Dr. Minji's research, a quantum disruption bomb that would release a massive electromagnetic pulse designed specifically to shut down Krill neural networks. "The bomb is ready," he reported. "But someone needs to place it at the exact center of the nest structure. The pulse has to propagate evenly, or it won't work." "How close do they need to get?" Minji asked. "Inside the structure. We need to plant the bomb directly in its core." That changed everything. Getting close to the nest was hard enough. Getting inside it was impossible. Except Admiral Taeyang didn't believe in impossible. "I'll do it," he said. "The Defiant will penetrate the nest structure and deploy the bomb. The rest of you provide covering fire, and then get clear. When this thing goes off, you don't want to be nearby." "Sir, that's a one-way trip," his first officer said quietly. "I know." Taeyang looked around at his crew. "Any of you who want to transfer to another ship, do it now. I won't think less of you. I won't think less of you. I won't think less of you." Not a single person moved. "Guess you're stuck with us, Admiral," the weapons officer said. Taeyang allowed himself a small smile. "Then let's make it count." The Defiant pushed forward, its weapons firing non-stop. The other 9 ships formed a wedge around it, clearing a path through the Krill swarm. They lost 2 ships in the first minute, 3 more in the next 2 minutes. But they kept going. The nest structure came into view. It was grotesque, a massive organic construct that looked like a tumor growing in space. Openings dotted its surface, and through them, Taeyang could see movement Krill being born, being programmed, being sent out to consume the galaxy. "There," Dr. Minji said, highlighting a point on their scans. "That's the neural center. If you can get the bomb there, it will shut down the entire network. Plot a course," Taeyang ordered. The Defiant dove toward the nest, entering through one of the large openings. Inside was a nightmare landscape of living tunnels and chambers. Krill swarmed everywhere, but the ship's weapons cleared a path. "Approaching the neural center," the navigator said. 30 seconds. An explosion rocked the ship. They had taken damage, significant damage. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Hull integrity at 40%. Damage control reported. We won't survive the trip back out." "We're not making a trip back out," Taeyang said calmly. He turned to his crew. "It's been an honor serving with you. Now let's finish this." The Defiant reached the center of the nest structure. Through the view screen, they could see the Krill brain, a massive, pulsing organ that glowed with bioluminescent light. It was both beautiful and horrible. "Deploying bomb," Engineer Junho said. The device launched from the ship and embedded itself in the brain tissue. "Detonation. In 60 seconds. All ships, this is Taeyang," the Admiral broadcast to the fleet. "Clear the area. The bomb is armed. Get our people home." The remaining ships of the strike force turned and burned their engines at maximum, trying to get clear. Behind them, the Defiant stayed in position, making sure the bomb stayed exactly where it needed to be. Hyunwoo, aboard Commander Nari's damaged ship, watched the countdown. 50 seconds. 40. 30. "Sir, we should open a channel to the Defiant," his communications officer said. "No," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Let them have their peace." On the bridge of the Defiant, Admiral Taeyang sat in his command chair. His crew stood at their stations, calm and professional to the end. "Anyone have any last words?" Taeyang asked. "Yeah," the weapons officer said. "Remember how the Council said humans were too primitive for war? I wish they could see this." 4. "They will," Taeyang said. "When the Krill network collapses, they'll know exactly who saved them." 1. 10 seconds. 5. 3. 2. 1. The quantum disruption bomb detonated. The pulse spread through the Krill nest at the speed of light, shutting down neural pathways and severing the hive mind connections. The massive brain at the center of the structure went dark. And across the galaxy, billions of Krill simply stopped moving. On Council worlds, where the Krill had been attacking for weeks, the creatures suddenly became still. On ships locked in combat with Krill swarms, the enemy went dormant. In the Void Reach, The massive swarms surrounding the human fleet just floated. "They're dead," Dr. Minji whispered, unable to believe it. "All of them. The hive mind is gone." The human fleet erupted in cheers. They had won. They had actually won. But the celebration was muted. They had paid a terrible price. 7 ships lost, including the Defiant. 40,000 human lives, including Admiral Taeyang and his entire crew. As the fleet prepared to jump back to Council space, Hyun-woo stood looking out at the remains of the krill nest. Somewhere in there, Admiral Taeyang's ship was entombed, a monument to sacrifice. "We'll tell them," Hyun-woo said quietly. "We'll make sure the galaxy knows what you did." The fleet jumped to FTL, leaving the Void Reach behind. The war was over. Now came the harder part. Rebuilding a galaxy and forging a new future. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Earth to find thousands of ships waiting for them. Council vessels, human civilian craft, even private ships, all of them gathered to witness the return of the heroes who had saved the galaxy. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of Commander Nari's damaged ship, watching the celebration unfold. Fireworks exploded in orbit around Earth. Visible from space, every communication channel was flooded with messages of gratitude and congratulations. "We did it," Lieutenant Jisoo said softly beside him. Her uniform was torn and stained, her face showing the exhaustion of weeks of continuous combat. "We actually did it." "No," Hyun-woo corrected gently. "Admiral Taeyang did it. And 40,000 others who aren't here to see this." The mood on the bridge sobered. They had won, but victory had cost them dearly. Every ship in the fleet carried the names of the dead etched into their memory banks. Every survivor carried faces they would never forget. General Borum's voice came over the communication system. "All returning ships, welcome home. You've made humanity proud. You've made the entire galaxy safer. Take the next 72 hours for rest and recovery. After that, we have work to do." The ships dispersed to various stations and docks for repairs. Medical teams swarmed aboard, treating the wounded. Grief counselors stood ready to help those dealing with what they had witnessed. Dr. Minji didn't rest. She went straight to her laboratory on Earth, where she began compiling every piece of data she had gathered about the krill. The war might be over, but she wanted to understand everything about the enemy they had faced. Knowledge was the best defense against future threats. 3 days later, the Galactic Council reconvened. The chamber looked different. The platforms that had been reserved for the 7 elder species now included an 8th platform for Earth, positioned not at the edge like before, but in the center, equal to all the others. Ambassador Daeho walked into the chamber wearing formal diplomatic robes. Behind him walked Captain Hyun-woo, now wearing the insignia of Fleet Marshal, and Dr. Minji, representing Earth's scientific community. They were no longer visitors begging for recognition. They were full members of the Council. Counselor Vex Tar stood on his platform. He looked diminished somehow, his crystalline form less bright than before. The war had humbled him in ways nothing else could have. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Daeho of Earth," Vex Tar said formally. There was no mockery in his voice now, only exhaustion. Daeho took his place on Earth's platform. He didn't smile or gloat. He simply nodded respectfully to the other counselors. "The Galactic Council owes humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid," Elder Hyun said. The ancient Archon had emerged from his meditation, looking older but more alert than before. "Your species saved ours when we could not save ourselves. You fought when we had forgotten how to fight. You sacrificed when we had grown too comfortable to understand sacrifice." "We did what was necessary," Daeho replied, "and we would do it again." Counselor Zethra stepped forward. She had taken over as the primary voice of the Archon species, while Hyun served as an advisor. "The Council recognizes that our structure was flawed. We had grown arrogant in our age, believing that wisdom came from years rather than experience. We forgot that survival requires vigilance, not just knowledge. She pulled up a holographic display showing a proposed restructuring of the entire council system. We propose significant changes. First, Earth will lead the new Security Directorate, responsible for the defense of all council worlds. Second, all species will contribute forces to a unified military command, trained by human officers. Third, the council's decision-making will be reformed. No longer will age grant automatic authority. Merit and capability will determine leadership. Vextar looked like he wanted to object, but he remained silent. His faction had been thoroughly discredited by their failure during the war. The vote was taken. The restructuring passed unanimously. After the session ended, Councillor Vextar approached Ambassador Deho privately. It was the first time the proud Velkari had ever sought out a human for conversation. "I was wrong about your species," Vextar said bluntly. "I believed age equaled wisdom. I thought our long history gave us the right to dismiss newer species as inferior. The Krill taught me otherwise. You taught me otherwise." Deho studied the alien for a moment. Vextar had caused humanity significant pain with his arrogance and dismissiveness. It would be easy to refuse this olive branch, to hold a grudge. But that wasn't who humanity wanted to be. "We all make mistakes," Deho said. "The question is what we learn from them." The council species forgot that the galaxy is dangerous. You became comfortable. We can on rings tap tang. But comfort breeds complacency, and complacency kills. Perhaps this war will help everyone remember that safety requires constant effort. And perhaps humanity can teach us what we have forgotten, Vextar said. How to adapt, how to fight, how to survive. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed. Fleet Marshal Hyun Woo established the Joint Species Defense Academy on a neutral world halfway between Earth and the Council core systems. Officers from all species came to learn human military tactics and strategies. At first, many of them were skeptical. How could primitives teach advanced species anything? But the first live fire exercises changed their minds quickly. A Velkari officer named Kelran, who had commanded capital ships for 300 years, found himself outmaneuvered by a human lieutenant in every simulation. "How do you think this way?" Kelran asked in frustration after the fifth defeat. "You see patterns I don't even know exist." "Because we had to," the lieutenant replied. "On Earth, we fought each other for thousands of years. We couldn't rely on superior technology because both sides usually had similar weapons. So we learned to think creatively, to adapt, to use psychology and misdirection. War isn't just about firepower. It's about outsmarting your enemy." Kelran requested to extend his training for another 6 months. So did most of the other council officers. Lieutenant Jisoo became one of the Academy's primary instructors. She taught courses on rapid adaptation and small unit tactics. Her classes were always full, with waiting lists that extended for months. "The key," she told her students, "is to never become predictable. The moment your enemy knows what you're going to do, you've lost. Keep them guessing. Keep them off balance. Make them react to you instead of the other way around." Meanwhile, Dr. Minji established the Galactic Medical Research Institute on Earth. She invited scientists from all council species to join her in studying everything from alien biology to disease prevention. One of her first projects was developing medical treatments for conditions that affected council species. Many of these species had grown so reliant on technology that they had stopped researching natural medicine. Minji changed that, combining human knowledge with alien technology to create breakthrough treatments. A young Archon scientist named Sora worked alongside Minji, fascinated by human medical techniques. "Your species approaches problems so differently," Sora said while they examined tissue samples. "We tend to look for technological solutions. You look for biological ones." Effect. Laughact. Effect. Laughact. Effect. "Because for most of our history, we didn't have advanced technology," Minji explained. We had to work with what nature gave us. That taught us to understand biological systems deeply. Technology is wonderful, but sometimes the best solution is the simple one. The work they did together saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Minji received the Council's highest scientific honor, but she deflected the praise to her team. "Science isn't about individual glory," she said in her acceptance speech. "It's about collaboration, sharing knowledge, and building on each other's discoveries. That's what we're doing here, combining the best of all our species to create something better than any of us could achieve alone." General Borum retired after ensuring that Earth's defenses were solid and that the Joint Species Defense Force was functioning properly. He spent his retirement writing a military history of the Krill War, making sure that future generations understood what had happened and why. Soldier Minho became a trainer at the academy, teaching close combat techniques and survival skills. Marine Unji joined him, specializing in planetary assault tactics. Their classes were popular with students who wanted to learn the aggressive, direct combat style that had proven so effective against the Krill. Engineer Junho continued developing new defensive technologies, but now he worked with scientists from across the galaxy. The weapons and tools that emerged from these collaborations were revolutionary, combining human innovation with alien knowledge in ways neither could have achieved alone. Commander Nari took charge of the Council's Rapid Response Fleet, a new force designed to react quickly to any threat. Her ships patrolled the borders of Council space, making sure nothing like the Krill could ever surprise them again. 5 years after the war ended, Fleet Marshal Hyun-woo visited an elementary school on Earth. The classroom was unique. It held human children alongside young Valkyrie, Archons, and members of other Council species. They learned together, played together, grew together. A small human girl raised her hand. "Marshal Hyun-woo," my teacher said, "you saved the galaxy. Is that true?" Hyun-woo smiled and knelt down to her level. "I helped, but thousands of other people did the real saving. Brave soldiers who flew into danger. Smart scientists who figured out how to fight the enemy. Leaders who made hard decisions. It wasn't one person, it was all of us working together." "But why did you help the aliens?" a young Archon asked. "My grandparents said they were mean to humans before the war." "That's true," Hyun-woo acknowledged. "Some of them didn't respect us. Some of them thought we weren't important because we were young compared to them. But, you know what? Being angry at them wouldn't have solved anything. Being bitter wouldn't have saved anyone. So we made a choice." "What choice?" the human girl asked. "We chose to be better than our hurt feelings. We chose to help people who needed help, even if those people had been unkind to us. Because that's what makes someone truly strong, not the ability to hurt others, but the ability to help them even when it's hard." Another child, a young Valkyrie, spoke up shyly. "My parents said, humans are the strongest species in the galaxy now." "We're not the strongest," Hyun-woo corrected gently. "We're just one species among many. What makes us special is that we remember where we came from. We remember that survival isn't about being the biggest or the oldest. It's about adapting, learning, and never giving up." He stood up and gestured to all the children in the classroom. "And that's what all of you represent. The future. A galaxy where different species learn from each other, help each other, and grow together. That's stronger than any weapon. More valuable than any technology." The teacher, a human woman named Hana, smiled at him. "Would you like to tell them about Admiral Taeyong?" Hyun-woo nodded. He told the children about the Admiral's sacrifice, about the crew of the Defiant, who gave their lives to save trillions. He made sure they understood that heroism wasn't about being fearless, it was about being afraid and doing what was right anyway. When he finished, the classroom was silent. Then, the young Archons stood up and bowed, a gesture of deep respect in their culture. One by one, all the other children stood and bowed too. "We'll remember them," the human girl said seriously. "We promise." Later that evening, Hyun-woo met with Ambassador Daeho and Dr. Minji at a cafe overlooking Earth's sunset. They had all aged, in the 5 years since the war. Gray had crept into their hair, and lines had appeared around their eyes. But they were alive, and the galaxy was at peace. "Do you think it will last?" Minji asked, sipping her tea. "The peace, I mean. Nothing lasts forever," Deho said. "But we've built something good here." The council species learned humility. They learned that age doesn't guarantee wisdom, and that new ideas have value. That's a foundation we can build on. And they learned not to underestimate us, Hyunwoo added with a slight smile. That helps too. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the planet they had fought so hard to protect. Above them, in orbit, the council station flew flags from all member species side by side. Human ships patrolled alongside Velkari cruisers and Archon defenders. The galaxy had changed. Somewhere in deep space, a probe passed through the void reach, monitoring for any signs of krill resurgence. The region was quiet now, empty except for the frozen remains of the nest structure. A monument had been placed there, honoring all those who had died in the war, human and alien alike. The inscription read simply, "They chose courage over comfort, sacrifice over safety, and unity over division. May we never forget their example." On Earth, in the archives of the military academy, students studied the tactics and strategies of the Krill War. They learned how humanity had adapted, how they had turned their supposed weaknesses into strengths, how they had proven that the most dangerous opponent is the one who refuses to quit. And in council chambers across the galaxy, when difficult decisions needed to be made, leaders remembered the lesson that humanity had taught them. That true strength isn't about dominating others, it's about protecting them. That wisdom comes from experience, not age. That the newest voice in the room might have the best answer. Fleet Marshal Hyunwoo returned to his office and looked at the holographic display showing the current state of galactic defense. Green indicators showed peaceful sectors. Yellow showed areas requiring monitoring. There were no red indicators, no immediate threats, but he knew better than to grow complacent. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only explored a fraction of it. There would be other threats, other challenges. The Krill would not be the last enemy, but when those challenges came, the galaxy would face them together. Not as separate species competing for dominance, but as partners working toward common goals. Humanity had proven that the strongest species wasn't the oldest or the most advanced. It was the one willing to sacrifice for others, the one that adapted fastest, the one that never gave up. The council had mocked them once, dismissed them as primitive newcomers who understood nothing about the galaxy. Now they were fleeing for humanity's protection, grateful for the species they had once scorned. And in that transformation from mockery to respect, from isolation to integration, from weakness to strength, humanity had taught the galaxy its most important lesson. That true power comes not from weapons or age or technology, but from the courage to do what's right, even when the cost is high. That was humanity's gift to the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same.